All right. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl. I'm broadcasting to you from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm here with my good friends Dan and Catherine. And today we are talking about the second chapter in the book Leonardo and Gabriel by Tim Tigner or Tigner. Do you know how that's pronounced? If it's Tigner or Tigner?
I really don't.
I think
I
it's
don't know.
Tigner.
Tigner. Let's go with Tigner. Tim Tigner. And then, but yeah, anyway, so we're talking about the second chapter. And for those of you who are new to our mastermind, we just get together, pretty much weekly and we discuss different books. And if you'd like to participate with us, there's going to be some links below this video where you can jump into our Facebook group, which is Mindset Mastery Collective. And just let us know you want to participate, and we'd be happy to send you a link to join. So, but before we get going, I'm going to go ahead and give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then Karen, I'm going to let you take it from there and give us a start for a conversation.
Okay, I'm Karen. I'm in the Valley of the Sun, which is the Phoenix area. In fact, I'm in the East Valley of the Valley of the Sun, and we're starting to have the kind of weather that people move here for. It's starting to be quite lovely. I was able to walk to Walmart yesterday about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which, for several months has been way over 3 digits, and it was yesterday. It was 85 with a little breeze, and it was basically fabulous. I did come home in a sweat by the time I managed the whole trip and carrying my bags, but I was going to say you could come visit now, but I'd really rather you didn't because the traffic just gets so bad with the snowbirds.
I'm Dan Sisek in Las Vegas, Nevada, where we're experiencing a little bit of a warm-up, considering we're about right at the end of October. We had like one of the coldest Octobers in like over 20 some odd years, where we were getting down into the 30s. So I'm enjoying the warm-up. So looking forward to getting into this next part of this book.
Well, since we're talking about weather, it's cold here. It's like in the teens, so maybe the 20s. I don't know. It might be in the 20s now, but it was chilly this morning, the last few days. So. But that's okay because, we got to have winters so we have a good change of seasons and whatnot. Welcome, Bill.
That's a Saturday Morning Mastermind.
Nope, I don't think you can hear us yet. Can you hear us, Bill? Oh, he's got to get his earphones. Okay, I'm going to mute out and get these kids cleaned up. And Karen, I'll let you go ahead and take it. And then when Bill's ready, he can introduce himself.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Bill. Nice to have you on. You can put your name in the guest bar if you'd like to. Also, you can introduce yourself before we get on here.
Okay, I'm not sure how down at the bottom is when I do the mic, so you can hear me?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
You're doing good.
Yeah, Dan and I have known each other from past experiences. I'm out in Olympia, Washington, about to retire again. And as you see, I do also Legal Shield. And beyond that, I really haven't gotten the book yet, but I will be glad to listen in on what you guys are talking about. So,
if you've got a Kindle, you can get it free, right? Practically instant. That's how I've gotten mine. Although okay. I think they want a review when you're done, and then they want to take it back away from you if you do the free part. But it's
okay.
It's really handy when you can do that. All we did last week was talk about the introduction, and so now we're getting into what it is that Leonardo is up against. with this, and it has to do with finishing the Last Supper. And
You have a bike phone holder, don't
he has only 2 portraits yet.
On your bike, you have a phone holder.
We're getting some extra sound from somewhere. Does anybody know what that is?
Oh, probably me. I'll turn off my mic.
Oh, okay, yeah, thanks. He's painting the Last Supper, and the only 2 people that he has left is Judas and the Christ. And you know, Judas is a bit of a problem for him, but he's probably not so concerned about that as he is about painting the face of the Son of God. And he's realizing that for his life, which I think at that point was 40 or 45 years, which is astounding to me because he'd already accomplished so much. And also, he's the son of, he's the age of my oldest son, if he's somewhere in there. Well, he's the age of both my sons, to be somewhere in there. And, it's really difficult to imagine. Oh, Catherine, we're so glad to have you join us. Hello, say where you're from and who you are.
Hello, this is Catherine from Boulder, Colorado.
Actually, Samantha said earlier that she was getting together with Dan and Catherine, and I knew it was a Freudian slip. She wanted you on. Anyway, his difficulty with painting the Son of God is realizing that he's never really accepted he's never really acknowledged the Bible's God, and he's never really, kind of like so many of us, I think. In fact, I think that this is why I wanted to suggest this book, and maybe why those of us who are gathered around about it is that we have kind of danced around the idea of facing certain aspects of our beliefs because perhaps there's a conflict, and for him, the conflict is between faith and reason. His idea is that he cannot have both, and his reason is very, very important to him. And as we come to read in the book further, we'll understand it's very important to the theme of the book. So with that, if the rest of you would please, share what you'd like to share.
For me, most of you guys know my beliefs and where I stand. I do believe in God. I do believe in the Son of Jesus Christ. And but I can't say I don't have my moments and times where I look at things and reasoning and maybe some of what I see out in life makes me take pause, I guess, at times and question it a little bit at times. But deep down, I believe my faith is still there and very strong. But I can understand, where it says there, that Leonardo da Vinci was living a lie. It tormented him day and night. For the first 46 years of his life, he had chosen to ignore the war raging in his head. At last, the Austrian approach was no longer an option. And I think that, I think that's what a lot of people do. They tend to shy away, or they tend to not really want to deal with it because it is such a big, complex, and overwhelming issue. Because I think most of us here believe in a higher power or universe or infinite intelligence, or that there's something more out there than just some of what we are. So in that sense, I think that's where a lot of it comes from. It's not. I think deep down, I think we all believe in something. 'Cause even like for me, when people say they're an atheist and they say they don't believe in anything, well, you actually still believe in something. You believe in the abstract of the others, but you're still believing in something. So in that sense, that's where I have problems, like with people that say they're atheists or agnostics or whatever, things like that. But that's kind of where I'm at. That I'm pretty settled in on my views and my beliefs, but I still see a lot out there that does make me question and go back and have that little battle with myself sometimes too.
I do find that interesting down your comment about atheists. Atheists. I think that's not the right word. Atheists. Thinking that they don't believe in something. They definitely do believe in something. I was invited to actually the ASU. It looks like I'm going to have some problems with a few of my words coming to me when I need them today. But anyway, I remember going there. I had put my first husband through law school, and I remember going there for his law school graduation. So one of those big, huge places, on a college campus or university campus. I was invited there to hear a well-known atheist speak. I guess I got uninvited before I could go there, but I had looked him up a little bit and realized there's a preponderance of beliefs that go along with a person who would be accepted as an atheist. So anyway, that was interesting to me because I had not known that before.
Well, I can definitely relate to Michelangelo on several levels. One being an artist and having to wait for what I consider to be divine inspiration as far as my work, whether that's through painting or a stained glass design or poetry or whatever. I have never felt like it came from me. I've always felt like it came from somewhere else. And I can't force it. That's why I've never really been able to turn that into a business, because it's not something that I can just pull out of my arse necessarily. I have to wait for that inspiration. And usually I'll dream it, like I'll dream the design or something like that. So I can really relate to this book as far as him having these crazy dreams and questioning, where they're coming from. And as far as God, I have always believed in God, but I have not necessarily believed in the any of the spiritual texts, and I've read many of them, and I have always just felt that they were. I think they were all written with good intent. But I also feel like humans are humans, and they tend to pull in their own needs, wants, desires into whatever they're doing. So there were, especially in like medieval times, there was a lot of chaos going on, there was a need to be able to sort of set some rules and control some things going on. And so I think all of that wound up in these texts. So I can't say that I've ever, believed in the white man sitting on the cloud in the robe kind of God, but I definitely do believe in God. I can't tell you what, who, how. I can't tell you any of that, but I know that there's something that interacts with me on a daily basis. That is what I know for sure. Now, what it is, I have no idea. But the people that are put in my car, I drive for Lyft. If you haven't been on one of our programs before, the people that are put in my car are absolutely meant to be there. Like, there's no question in my mind. I actually get excited now when a trip gets canceled because the next one is going to be really good. Like, I used to get a little, when I first started driving, I'd get a little upset if somebody canceled. But now I'm just excited because I know that the next person is the person that was meant to be in the car, not the one that canceled. So it's really exciting to me. And I got this book on Audible. I think I just saw a note where it's actually free on Kindle. So I can't remember if I got it on Kindle, but I'm definitely going to, because sometimes, there's a difference between the Kindle book and the Audible book, the written book. But I've already listened all the way through. I'm about halfway through listening to it again. And I think it's a great choice to discuss, especially in this group. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm going to pop out again because I was looking through the book, the chapter a little bit more, and it kind of refreshed a little bit of what I was trying to remember. Because I'm like you, Karen. I'm kind of read ahead because once I started reading, I didn't realize the chapter separation. I thought it would tell me chapter 1, chapter 2, which it doesn't. It just kind of goes. And so with that, but in it, I think also part of the paradox and what he was fighting with was trying to actually, in his mind, draw what the face of God would look like, or the face of Christ would look like. And it kind of like goes back to what you were saying, Catherine. How can you put a picture or draw or the essence of God in the sense of to do justice and honor to God and to that thought, and to, because I think he does through different ways manifest and shows his presence and his being to everybody in a different way, or the way that that person needs in order to best communicate. And for me, it's like through music and through certain things and stuff like that. That's the way that I connect. But for Catherine, it's been through the dreams and the visions, and comes out in the art and the stuff that she, can produce sometimes and things like that. And I think everybody else will have their own, way of how they connect. So how do you draw something that will be able to resonate with everybody and give them that sense that this is everything of who God is, even though he was representing Christ here on earth in a physical manifestation. So in that sense, I can understand that. I don't think I'd want to be tapped with that project to try and do that, because I don't think I could do that justice either. And I can very well probably go through the same thing of how do I paint this, or what do I paint?
I'm trying to listen to you guys here in the background while doing stuff with these guys, and I've been catching little bits here and there. But I thought it was kind of interesting how he really kind of gets into he just shares these kind of questions that he has in his mind about while he's trying to figure out what these faces should look like, and he's talking about of course not being able to reconcile the picture preaching in scripture with the suffering he saw everywhere, and how could the Almighty possibly permit the innocent to endure so much misery? And then he was like, he can't see how, he says Leonardo knew no benevolent father who would allow his children to suffer. And as a parent myself and a grandparent, I look at that and I'm like, it's the same thing. I'm like, I don't get that, how in religious texts they say he's benevolent and he is all he cares about us, but yet there's all of this. I don't know, the way I see the world is there's so much insanity going on, and how can we have all of these different religions and then everyone's fighting with each other when all religions teach that you're supposed to love one another, but yet we have all of these wars over religious beliefs, and it just baffles my mind that on one hand it teaches love, and then on the other hand it teaches exclusion if you don't believe what we believe, and that's just really aggravating and frustrating to me because and for myself, growing up in a Christian school, supposedly we were non-denominational, but yet at the same time I saw day after day where if a teacher believed one certain type of beliefs and a student was there with a different type of belief, they would work so hard to convince that student that their belief was the right way. And so I, over a lot of years, I had a lot of difficulty reconciling, who God really was and religious teachings versus what I actually was seeing in the world. And for a long time, I pretty much just was like, religion, it's not for me at all whatsoever. And I, turned myself off to God and all beliefs relating to God. And, it wasn't until I started reading other things later in my life, like the Tao Te Ching and reading Buddhist teachings and, even some Indian teachings that I started to realize, okay, now these things are saying a lot of the same things that the Bible scriptures are saying. And if we can cut out all of this like mumbo jumbo that comes along with people's ideas of religious, what's the word I'm looking for, like ritualism, if you will, and judgment and all of that, if we just remove all that and get down to like the basic teachings, is that then it's all teaching love and acceptance, and I'm like, that's the God that I believe in, the one who doesn't care what religion you are, the one that doesn't care what color your skin is or what sexual orientation you are. That's the God that I believe in. And so I mean, I can see how he would be struggling in the same way, because he's like trying to paint this face of the Christ, and yet everything is so contradictory when it comes to religion. So I mean, I can completely understand that. So those are my thoughts so far.
So was he the first one to paint Christ, to bring out an image of Christ? Karen, do you know?
That's a good question. Maybe we should Google that.
I don't know, and that is a good question. And I certainly know a lot of paintings today that you could say rumor circulates that the painter actually saw and possibly conversed with Christ, paint that picture. And of course, then you get into the differences. Again, like Dan was saying, or I apologize. My brain doesn't seem to be on mark this morning. Anyway, you get the differences as to how people see Christ. And of course, not everybody sees Christ as a white man, you know, in the robe and all that kind of stuff. I would like to mention that there have been a couple of instances recently. I've noticed over the years that it seems the Catholic Church takes the brunt of a lot of news. I was raised a Mormon. Many of you know I've gone through the crisis in the last. There are a couple of things that I do with the state of Arizona, and also have to do with marketing. That one honestly, my brain doesn't work normally, but anyway, his name's Paul Peterson, and he has orchestrated many women coming from for several years now, giving up their age for adoption, which, of course, is not only evil but illegal. And, but really interesting that after they had shown the picture of the family, which of course the family is like the big deal for the Mormons. Then they announced, you know, that he was, and he's a Mormon. And then this past week, the three white vans that were a caravan of women. They were all driven by women and children going to a wedding in Mexico across the Arizona border with the three women killed and 6 children killed, including 2 twin 8-month-olds. 6 children killed, 5 remaining alive, and 2 of them, a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old, walking many, many miles to get help because they were out, you know, where there wasn't any help. And of course, these people were not Mormons, but they were a breakoff of the Mormon Church, a fundamentalist group that still practices polygamy. And so I know that if I were, other than hidden away in you know, this private little over here, I would know where people would be talking about, you know, what are beliefs. You know, it's a curious thing. I have to say that what I want to do is get together with some of my Catholic friends and say, how are you raised? What did you learn? What do you know? How do you see God? What does he look like to you? All those kinds of things. So that was an interesting question. I've forgotten now whoever asked that.
And I think that's going to what you were saying. I think that's the fundamental question we all have: is we all are looking and desiring to connect and see God for ourselves and connect, you know, that sense. And I think we all do in our ways. It's just different for everybody. So in order to, you know, it might help to understand or hear other people's what they've gone through or how they might have connected. But I don't think it's until you have your own experience, like Catherine had hers. I believe I've had one of my own experiences going through, you know, my stuff with when I first lost my job and I was almost in the process of losing my house. I went through a modification, and I had never ever had panic attacks in my life, ever had issues or things dealing with anxiety of that sense. I mean, I have normal anxiety like other people have, But this was so bad that I would go to bed, but then in the middle of the night, I'd wake up in cold sweats and panic attacks just over, where was I going to live? Am I going to keep my house and stuff? Because I was going through this modification process. And through that, I had to really relinquish and, let go of, all the things that I was grasping onto. And I'll be honest, that's when I just kind of asked God to come in and settle me and give me peace. And He did give me peace. And out of that, I kind of had my own experience of where I know I can't explain exactly how I know or the way. It was no vision, no real anything like what Catherine said. But I had that overwhelming sense of everything was going to be fine and it was going to play out and it was going to work okay. And after that, I stopped having the panic attacks. I could sleep through the night. I could, really go through, and I was able to move forward and not stress and worry about, what the outcome was going to be of me getting my modification, because I'd lost my job. I didn't have, the same money coming in. I was, 20 million other things were going on in my head. And it was just interesting to go through that little process myself. And that's how I got my kind of confirmation that I believe, and it helps solidify my beliefs, because up until that time I fought with my own demons, I fought with my own things, and kind of held on, but still, like you guys, I see the world and see everything going on out there, and all the pain, the hurt, the misery, but I also, being involved in my church and going out and being a part of things I'm a part of, I see the good that's being done too, and the way of how I believe that I perceive as part of what is God's heart in us, going out to help take care of other people, do things for other people, share that love, show that love, and give that love. And I think that's part of what I think God is all about. So in that sense, that's where I'm, like it doesn't tell me I have my moments, and it doesn't have my moments where I look at stuff and say, really, is this the way it's always going to be? And so I still think it's an up and down thing for everybody.
I certainly agree that it's an up and down thing. I remember when I was probably in the third grade, and as I had earaches as a child, I came out when my parents were entertaining people who were looking into the church, and so they were taking lessons in my parents' home, because my parents had just joined the church, and they had a lot to learn, and so forth. Anyway, that lesson that night happened to be on what they call the plan of progression, which basically, to me, has always come down to one simple thing, and that is that we go on after this life and we continue to learn and grow. And I knew as a child at age 9 or whatever I was, I just felt that was true. It was like it was like something that kind of filled my chest, and I had an experience. I've had a number of experiences where I have simply felt people who have passed on reaching out to me in my life. And one time it happened with my father-in-law. In fact, at that time, I was in the process of getting divorced from his son after 19 years, and he had passed on, I think probably 5 years before that or something. And I had very bitterly, when I would be thinking why I was so angry with my husband, I would be thinking it was because he had taken on traits of his father. And I know that I said things mentally and probably vocally, you know, deriding his father. In other words, I'm saying that because as I thought about it later, I realized he knew, he would have known that I was not thinking kindly of him. And my son went through a lot of difficulty I'm talking about my oldest son. He went through a lot of difficulty over our divorce and subsequent remarriage of his father, and ended up at my home. We lived about a mile apart. He ended up in my garage, and one night I realized he wasn't there, and he was 17, I think, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just panicked. I thought, I know he's doing things that will create poor judgment for him, and I tried to imagine the whole valley, which I knew really well because I drove all over the whole valley all the time, and I thought, where would you start to look? And as I started to go past my refrigerator, which was just right beside the door to the garage, to get in my car and go look, I felt something. And what it was my father-in-law, my ex-father-in-law. And I didn't see anything, I didn't hear anything. It was simply a feeling, and I knew exactly that it was him. And I was able to march myself back into bed and go to sleep. And that's not me at all. That was never me with my children at all. And so that has been the most prominent awareness for me, that afterlife, I can get signals from beyond for other signals from other people. And even though I have often said to myself in times, damn it, back to your comment where you say we go up and down, I've often gone back to, if you weren't a man, God, if you weren't a man, our world would be a whole different thing. All those kinds of things. There's those settling experiences which have been helpful to me, which I really appreciate.
So my biggest question right now, I've been watching, because I have had what would be called mediumistic experiences, where I have heard voices and I have seen visions and communicated with those on the other side. There's actually quite a lot of shows on like Prime Video, Netflix, things like that, about mediums, and I've been watching some of them. So I'm in a bit of a quandary, because one of them that I've been watching is where these mediums and psychics are helping solve cold cases, and like this person might have been dead for 30 years, and suddenly the psychic is able to connect with them and like solve the murder, because the spirit tells them exactly what happened, and it all plays out exactly. So but I also believe in reincarnation. I believe that we come back. So are we just multi-dimensional? Is it possible that person has reincarnated but can still communicate on the spirit level as the previous personality? Or how does that play out? Is that person just waiting around? I don't think it's a tortured soul that just waits, decades for some psychic to pop up that can communicate with them. It's so that's kind of flipping my mind around a little bit. But this book, because like you said, and it doesn't tell you where the the chapters are. So you just keep listening and listen and listen, and then the next thing you know, you're at the end of the book. It brings up some things that we'll talk about later as we get towards that part. That I don't know how I feel about that either. Like I mentioned the shack last week. I wonder if anybody watched that this week, and if so, maybe you can share your thoughts on it. But for right now, I'm still much more comfortable with that portrayal of God, I guess is how I'm going to say it. Dan says he owns the shack. He's read it. I haven't read it. I've just watched the movie. But I think I would like to read it because sometimes books and movies are quite different. But if you're not familiar, it's a book that was written by a man for his children, basically, because he wanted them to have an idea of a loving God as opposed to a punishing and judgmental God that can sometimes be portrayed through some religions. So I'm really comfortable with that concept, and I talk to Papa. They refer to God as Papa, even though Papa shows up as male, female, because God doesn't really have a sex, which is also brought out in this book that we're talking about here. Is that God is not a person. They're not, therefore they're not male or female. One question that comes up later in the book, which I thought was extremely interesting, was if God is not a body, a person, then can they reproduce? Because Jesus is referred to as the Son of God, and Mary gets pregnant, like, somehow. So, that's always been kind of a sticky point, I think, for some people, in that whole story of how Mary conceived and is, is that like a spiritual conception, and how does that happen? And like you could just pretty much drive yourself crazy thinking about it, I guess. I know when I had my vision and speaking experience with Jesus, it was an out-of-body experience during a traumatic event, and I was actually looking at and speaking to Jesus. I've always questioned, and that's why I asked the question about, was Michelangelo the first one to bring forth an image of Jesus? I pretty much saw the Jesus that Michelangelo painted, but I've always questioned, did he just appear that way to me because that's an image that I was familiar with, as opposed to, is that what he really looks like, if that makes any sense?
Well, I was gonna answer. I guess I'm making up for last week not being here last week very much. I was gonna answer a little bit of what you were talking about, Catherine. I have actually read the book. I want to see the movie now to see how they coincide. But when I read that book, The Shack, it really resonated with me because it gave me a better way to conceptualize God is that, yes, I believe that he's more spirit than he is any physical manifestation, but to help us as humans understand some of what he encompasses or is embodies, or I'm not even sure the best way of how to say that, but is that he encompasses all male, female, all that, and this was ways of how I could see all those sides, the essence of kind of like God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. So, but yet when they were in the book, they talked about Holy Spirit being more of the female aspect of God, and that caring, nurturing, giving, and that's the part of what I think, you know, I've tend to feel more, and where I run to more when I do go through the day-to-day up and downs and things like that, because of just how, you know, like when I look at my mom and stuff or things, the nature, the nurturing, the, you know, loving part, and that, and I think that's how I can better deal with it in my head to help me with my beliefs, I guess. And then, but going back, you know, I can understand now why, you know, like you said, you know, when he talks about God says he loved the world, that he gave his only begotten son, but he was talking about, aren't we all supposed to be his children? And I think that goes back to what Samantha was saying earlier, with about all the different factions, everybody, you know, saying that, well, no, we have the right way, or we're the only way, or we're this or that, and, you know, rather than loving, kind of hating or fighting or everything like that. And I think that's kind of, you know, where is, I don't think, I don't think there is, I don't think we fully connected in the full grandeur of what is available to us in connecting with God, the universe, infinite intelligence, however it plays out. And I think that's still part of the journey that we're on. And I think that's where people like you, Catherine, are at different levels. You know, and that's why I love when you share some of what you share, things like what you just shared, because it helps enlighten me a little bit more and helps me understand a little bit more for myself of I where my beliefs are going and stuff like that. And that's why I'm loving this book, because it's like making me ask questions I haven't asked or been afraid to ask in some cases, I think.
I was reminded yesterday, it was just in passing, I think, maybe walking through a room with a TV on, or I'm not sure what it was, but what we see is our reality. And if you think about the different paintings, we've probably all seen the woman, you know, the old woman with kind of the big nose, that if you look at it from a different, if you can get your eyes to do something different, you're seeing a young woman with a hat. And, you know, there are other pictures like that where you can really see two distinct images, and depending on what you do, and I don't even know how you do what you do to get that to happen, but I have noticed more in my life more recently that that I look at things, and because I am aware more because of my experiences with reading books like this, with thinking through the different, just all the things that comprise my I've started to realize how many assumptions I make. Assumptions. How habitually I look at something like you said. How do you know God is a man? Well, I certainly don't know that now. But with my raising, you know, there was no question. First of all, there was no question because I was raised that he was a man, and second of all, I was raised that my raising was true, and I had this this attitude that anything other than what I was raised with was untrue, and so I didn't have to pay any attention to it. I realize we're now at the time to let go of this. I just hope some more join us next week, and I'll turn things back to you, Samantha. Thanks.
Yeah, I hate to cut us all off because we get into these conversations and then we're like, oh, we can talk about this and that and the other and just keep on going. But we can't. We just have to do it next week. So if anybody has just a final thought you want to share before we wrap up for today, feel free to jump out and then I'll wrap this up. Just anybody? Okay, cool. All right, guys. Well, it's been awesome listening to you. I'm sorry I wasn't able to participate a little bit more in watching my grandboys today, but as we go on, I'm sure that we'll all have an opportunity to share our thoughts. And I've really appreciated listening to each one of you, and I'm glad that we can have this conversation here in the safe space, knowing that we're not going to judge one another, and that we're just sharing our feelings and thoughts, and that we're open to hearing what we each have to say. And I think that's just wonderful. I think that is just a great thing that we can do. So with that, guys, have an awesome, amazing week. And if you're watching us as recording, there's going to be some links below the video here on YouTube where you can click over and jump into our Facebook community if you want to participate. Comment below the video, like, subscribe to the channel so you get an update each time we upload a new video. And with that, we'll see you next week. Bye for now.